Hi everyone, and welcome to Scale Up Your Business. Week in and week out, I'm going to bring you the world's leading experts on business growth and entrepreneurial success. And as I always say, when I bring these amazing guests on the show, you are going to get a heap of value. How important is mindset in business?
You are going to descend to the level of your preparation.
I was so busy today. You were busy doing the wrong stuff.
I will be of service to small business owners till my final breath.
And the question is, can you get your brand everywhere?
Be grateful, be brave, have faith, and show up. And welcome to Scale Up Your Business. Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to Scale Up Your Business. It's another live show. We haven't done one of these for a little while, but I've got a very special guest with me today. So I thought that I'd have to make a very special change to the schedule and get her on quickly. And that is Lauren Tickner. Welcome, Lauren, to Scale Up Your Business.
Yes, thanks for having me. Well, I guess the lives haven't been going on because everyone is spending their whole time on Clubhouse.
They are. Okay. So for everyone who is going to be watching this live across the various social channels, there's a big social channel that has just been monopolizing people's time for the last few weeks. I've only been on there for 72 hours. You've been there a little bit longer, Lauren, haven't you?
It's been about 10 days for me, but I'm pretty sure my entire team doesn't know who I am anymore just because, I'm kind of unreachable these days.
So what we're talking about, to do the big reveal is we're talking about Clubhouse. Now, Clubhouse is, I'm going to say it's a social media app. So it doesn't have any other platform other than an app. I think it's only running on Apple at the moment too, Lauren. Is that right?
Yeah, iPhone only.
iPhone only. So it's kind of beta, but it's not beta because, everyone who's kind of got some sort of profile, audience, influencing in various ways is on there. And the way it works, for those who haven't heard of it, is you have to invite people and you get a limited number of invites. And it's kind of like this kind of club. It feels like a little bit like a cool club or not. But it's bizarre. But listen, anyone who hasn't heard of it, you'll be hearing about it a lot because it's starting to catch fire. And we literally properly met yesterday.
It's crazy, isn't it? This app is bringing people together faster than ever. But you know what? I think that having been through everything in the year 2020 with COVID and such, everyone is feeling the need for that human-to-human interaction and connection again. And so it's so refreshing to be able to have these conversations that feel so personal, despite the fact that you can be in one of these Clubhouse rooms with thousands of other people. And so it's nice, but at the same time, it's making me realize, wow, what am I going to do with all of this information that I'm learning? If I'm so addicted to this app, I need to go ahead and implement. So it's a bit of a...
And it is quite crazy. And for people who are listening to this again, they're probably saying, what the hell is going on? Because it is a little bit weird. It feels like you kind of go into this kind of black hole vortex for a while. Yeah. And it's so addictive in terms of what's going on that it's hard to kind of step out of it. So, we were just saying, we often have our phones running in the sidelines while we're sitting on what is called virtual stages as speakers or moderators. And in some cases, there are hundreds of people in the room, again, virtually with you, asking questions about our various areas of expertise. And of course, you've got a life around that. So I've got kids I've got to put to sleep and I've got businesses to run. But you're often being called back to speak on stage to answer various problems and help people. And it's crazy.
2021, here we are.
Right. Anyway, that's it. So that's how we met. It feels like I've known you a lot longer. And I think we have kind of connected a little bit on social media previous to this. But we met yesterday morning. It feels like it was weeks ago already. Just started kind of collaborating on a couple of different things. And I wanted to bring Lauren onto the show today because a lot of the stuff that she's doing, I think, is quite relevant for the opportunities that are presenting themselves. And I think some of these opportunities have been around for a while, but they've accelerated through COVID and what we're going into now in 2021. So, Lauren, do you want to introduce yourself properly to the Scale Up Your Business listeners?
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Lauren Tickner, and I really got started out in the fitness industry at the age of 16. So I have been in this online world now for quite some time and more or less my whole career, other than a short stint in the corporate world whereby I was working in asset management. But yeah, it wasn't really for me. Let's just put it that way. So having done all of that in the fitness space, I built a following in the fitness industry. And I started working with companies like Gymshark, which is an extremely impressive e-commerce business. Yeah. And at the time, I didn't necessarily see it for that. I saw it as this really cool company to be sponsored by a Gymshark athlete. And they decided that they wanted to pivot their brand strategy to go more mainstream because they were just growing so rapidly, right? And this was a really pivotal time for me because they decided, Lauren, we don't want to work with you anymore. And they said the same thing to loads of my friends, some of whom had millions and millions of followers. And at the time I had my online coaching going and it was going really nicely, running kind of on autopilot because I had the system set up. And so I was still able to travel and I was living, a really good life, to be honest. And my friends came to me and they were like, Lauren, how are you still traveling when this company isn't paying for it anymore? And so I kind of told them, I'm doing this and this with online coaching, some online courses. And they then immediately went from making a few grand a month to having a multiple six-figure income because they had the audience there right then. That was very easy to sell to. And so they posted on their Snapchat, okay, all the way back then, saying, thank you, like essentially, Lauren, thank you for helping me with this. And then all of their followers who were personal trainers and such started coming to me. So that's how this whole world was born of what I do now at my company, Impact School, is we help people launch and scale online coaching and online course businesses. So that's really what I'm focused on. And in the midst of all of that, a couple of things that I absolutely love is exercising. I absolutely love going for walks. So that's a little bit about me in a nutshell, not to mention the elephant in the room. I'm 23.
Well, I want to talk a little bit, not about your age per se, but the section of Scale Up Your Business, which this comes under, is what we call Entrepreneurial Focus. And we get a little bit deeper into the mindset, the skill set, the things that have kind of created success around entrepreneurship. So that's what this is going to be featured at. And just as we're talking now, Instagram's going crazy, by the way, which is interesting. So all the people that were on stage with yesterday are noticing that we're now talking, which means
they're like, wait, they're in the Clubhouse room and they're talking at the same time. How is this? They're
going onto Instagram and things are popping up. It's just hilarious. I'm seeing it. Eve's probably doing some stuff in the background, facilitating that for us. So let's talk about that. So, you're 23 now, you're well on your way to creating a business empire, and you've got, God, I'm 47. I wish I was doing that at your age. I started my first business, which was a fitness business at 19 and sold it, but didn't probably take it to the next stage. So let's just go back a step. When did you first start your business? How old were you when you first got into kind of business ownership?
Well, I did not see it as a business when I first started. Let's just put it that way. It was really a strange thing for me because I never saw myself as an entrepreneur or a business owner. I had absolutely no desire for that whatsoever because I thought that to be an entrepreneur, you had to be an inventor. And I think this is quite a common perception from a lot of people, because you see people who have service-based businesses. At least kind of a few years ago, you would see the traditional services and it just seems a bit boring. But then to be an entrepreneur and to create a company like Tesla, it feels like you have to be an inventor. And so I was never seeing myself as an inventor or anything like that. I always wanted to be the CEO of a FTSE 100 company, right? I really like this vision of just absolutely dominating it in the world of finance. So when I started out doing fitness coaching, I kind of just saw it as a bit of extra cash, to be honest. I liked the money, but I just loved what I was doing. And so this is something that I see quite commonly in the coaching and training type of industry, because you're so passionate about what you do. Oftentimes you'll do it for free, but then what you forget is that when people don't pay, or when they don't pay much, they don't pay much attention. And so the clients don't necessarily get the level of service and help that they need. So I say I properly started when I was 17, but really taking it seriously and actually treating everything that I did like a business, I was 21, I would say. Okay. And that was through some bad experiences whereby I didn't have legal protection and contracts, and that was just me being naive.
Okay, no, well, that happens. And it doesn't really matter too much about the age. That happens all through when people are trying new stuff. But did you have much help at that point? Did you have mentors around you or family who had been entrepreneurial that could at least guide you through this?
That's a great question. And so I had my dad, who was he was an estate agent, right? And so he hasn't had massive business success per se, but I always liked the fact that he was able to come and pick me up from school, you know, when a lot of my friends had to get picked up by like nannies or go to after school care and things like that. And so my brother's disabled. He has epilepsy, autism, various different other learning disabilities. And so at a young age, I was forced to be very independent, because despite the fact that he's 2 years younger than me, his mental age is around 2 years old. So he at least needs one-on-one care at every single hour of the day, whether he's awake or asleep. In case he has a seizure, you would have to change the position he's in to make sure that he can breathe. And so mentors for me was something that I have always seen as so important, whether it's an in-person coach or an online coach that I'm actually paying, or someone who I'm listening to their podcast. At the age of about 17 or 18, I really started binge listening to podcasts. And I saw that you had John Lee Dumas on your show. I started listening to his show ages ago, Pat Flynn, and I got into this whole digital marketing world. And that was how I was able to grow my business to multiple six figures before I was 21. And then from there, what I realized was that one of my biggest downfalls was my desire to continually learn, because I was learning so much about so many different things. I confused myself, right? And I had this absolute paralysis with information overload. And that's one of the things that I do fear about social media today, is that business owners, you can get anything at the click of a button. And so if you're not careful, then you're going to have too much information in your head. So a couple of years ago, I started implementing just-in-time learning, whereby I will only allow myself to learn something if I need it then and there, and I will go ahead and either execute it myself or share it with my team so they can execute on it. So that was one of the most powerful things.
Did you actually learn that as a process? I haven't heard of the terminology before, or is that what you call it, just-in-time?
It's what I call it. Yeah, it's my process.
No, okay. Yeah. But there's a couple of things I want to draw on before we move forward. So first one really is the overwhelm that can come from, taking in too much. I often say focus is a superpower. If you try and do too many things at once, you're never going to get through it. The brain is not made that way. So that in its own right is just worth mentioning. The second thing that you mentioned, which is kind of cool, is the amount of value you got free. Which again, I don't think a lot of people these days realize the value of stuff that's just out there. I often say on this podcast that, someone could listen to all the episodes and they don't really need anything else, in terms of information. Of course, accountability, a little bit more in terms of precision around what they're doing is not there. But it's amazing that you've listened to these things and taken action. So the next question I've got for you really is kind of, what is it about you that's I suppose being relatively focused and relentless to be successful? Do you understand that in yourself, or is it just something? It doesn't sound like it's something that's random.
It's great point. And I don't think that anyone who's successful got there by accident, right? And so of course there are a few people who just magically end up winning the lottery, but is that success? I don't know. It depends how you define it, right? If it's just money, but it's pure luck. But here's the thing, Nick. I don't know about you, but I didn't know that you started out in the fitness industry too. I feel like this has been one of the most beneficial things to my life, having been in that industry, because it has given me this discipline just through being surrounded by so many driven people to always persevere. Something that I started doing a long time ago is just forcing myself out of my comfort zone every day. And I call it a daily discipline. So every single day without fail, the first thing that I do in the morning is something that I don't want to do. Look, I have 3 options, okay? Every day, 3 options. One is a 1-hour weights workout or a circuit where I'm literally going to be killing myself. The second is a 7-kilometer run. And then the third is a 10 to 15 minute cold shower, right? And funnily enough, out of those 3 things, the one that I hate the most is the cold shower.
Yeah, I do a bit of that too. But you live in Dubai, right? I've got that right, haven't you? So, that's probably quite nice. I live in the coldest, darkest part of the UK. And trust me, and I've got a similar routine to you, and I can go through that. It'd be quite cool to sort of, compare notes. But I don't even last a minute or two under a cold shower. I'm like, ah!
So I did 30 days straight. I actually made a YouTube video about it. But I did 30 days straight, and I started to just love this euphoric feeling that you get. And it sounds it sounds like such self-torture, but seriously, I mean, it is this, after you've been in there for about 4 minutes, you're kind of a bit numb. And it is literally like this euphoric feeling, I'm guessing, of serotonin just getting absolutely unleashed all in your blood. And so one of the things that I do to kind of distract myself is I brush my teeth while I'm in there. And so it kind of takes
a lot of teeth brushing. No wonder you've got like nice white teeth.
It takes away I do brush my teeth for a long time. That's actually a weird fact about me that I don't think I've ever told anyone, except like people that know me personally who have been there when I've been brushing.
It's now everywhere across all this. But, you know, there's a few performance habits there. I mean, I have a very, very strict routine, similar to yours, different things. But the reason that I do that is, I think it was Jocko Willink who said discipline equals freedom. And I believe in that, right? So my day is extremely predictable. Well, it was predictable until Clubhouse. Now it's a bit, I'm going, you know, I was up at 5 a.m. this morning doing my 6K run. You know, I meditate every day. I always do some reading before I do anything else. And that was a bit of a challenge this morning because that takes about an hour to an hour and a half in the mornings to do all that. And of course, I was trying not to go onto bloody Clubhouse, so I had my phone off. but the point is, and a lot of people don't get this, and I'm trying to get a good sense of you from this, is that, you know, those small disciplines, those daily habits, they compound. And, you know, you don't see the results straight away, but over time you see it. And obviously your success, you know, has to be to some extent from those things.
Here's the thing. It's not even about doing them. It's about identifying the voice in your head in the moments that you are telling yourself that it's okay not to do them. Okay, so if, for example, I wake up one day, or even if I have this habit in the evening, I really like to snack. I love snacking only in the evening. And if I'm about to say, oh, go on, Lauren, just have another bowl of granola or another, whatever it happens to be, another chocolate bar, you know, another bar, just even one other piece of chocolate. It's not the little piece of chocolate, you know, that's irrelevant to my health. It's the mental weakness of actually caving in, because if you're going to give in that moment and you're allowing that moment of weakness into your life, then that means that if you need to get on a call with someone and have an uncomfortable conversation, or you're really tired and you're going to have to fire someone, but you don't want to do it, you know, you're going to push it off. And then you're going to push it off, and you're going to push it off and push it off and push it off. And then next thing you know, it's far too late. And then you live in regret, and you live in this mindset of just constant feeling dissatisfied. And so for me, it's much more dangerous to live in this state of always feeling like I have more to give. I would rather force myself to say no to something that I really want in that moment, so that in the long term I can have the ultimate satisfaction, right? And so it was one of those things actually that my mom taught me was deferred gratification, right? And so she did her thesis on it at university, so that's why she brought it up sometimes. And I never really understood what it meant until I was in the fitness industry doing some competitions. And so that's what kind of instilled that in me. And so I think that mental toughness and mental discipline is probably the most important thing that anyone can have, that I've seen at least, because even people who are successful, if they don't have the mental toughness and that self-discipline, then you can lose it all, right? Because you can go backwards, because you don't have the ability to keep your, I don't know how to phrase it, but
let me explain. Because I'm an intent listener. And if you listen to any of my interviews, it's normally relatively, people say I'm quite perceptive. You've just nailed it in a couple of minutes, what your success is, I think, right? There's obviously lots of parts to that, and we can go into more detail. But that discipline and that mindset, delayed gratification, all of those things, wherever it's come from, some of it will come from your environment and probably your parents, but that's your secret. That's the thing I think, if again, you tell me if I'm wrong, because I might be wrong, but if I look back at everything you've done, that's probably the thing that's been the thread all the way through your success, which has allowed you to achieve, to be frank, more than what most people do at 23. Most people at 23 are off, thinking about gratification now, the party now, the drinks now, the travel now, the what I can buy now. But you've obviously, made different choices.
Well, that's the thing. I think when I was like 15 years old, I was into all that stuff. And I know that seems like ridiculously young saying that now. But at that age, you think you're so old and cool and whatever. But here's the thing. One of the things that I started doing when I was about, it was the 16, 17 years old time period where I really sort of changed my outlook and my way of doing things. And I decided that I will sit and do my work until it's done. I will not leave until it is done. And so I have that same type of mindset now. It's like, I will just get it done. I don't do time blocking. For me personally, it doesn't work. I have to finish something, because for me, that is the most satisfying thing, knowing that I've got it done. And if I can do something in that moment rather than doing it tomorrow, then I will do it then. So for example, I was supposed to be taking a call tomorrow. I moved it today, and I just got a really big client just because I moved, I would have got it tomorrow, but I just moved it today. So now I have that time tomorrow to do the same thing. So it's like, I'm making my success and I'm getting this stuff done sooner, and I'm just moving it all forward and condensing.
Well, that's another thing. I mean, that's another a trait of people that I've had on here who are successful. And I've had, it's not always about the money, right? This is a business podcast. So quite often we talk about that, and we talk about, net worth. But if I think about the deck of millionaires, the ones who are earning hundreds of millions and even up to billions. So I've had a couple of billionaires on here. They all have very similar traits, Lauren. So I suppose the message to people watching and listening is a lot of this stuff isn't rocket science, right? Everyone's got the capability to do it. It's choices at the end of the day. But what you've articulated is a certain set of very high performance choices.
I think it's that they're so easy to do that it's underlooked.
Yeah.
And I just always I mean, I don't know about you, but I just always like to think, if someone else was looking in on how I'm performing and the things that I'm doing, would that be the type of person who is a successful person? It's like, I don't remember the phrase, but it's something along the lines of, it's the things you do when no one else is looking that make all the difference. And I remember hearing that one time, and it just hit me, because I realized that I am kind of slacking in certain areas. Like certain things that I do, I'm not proud of. Like, even as simple as leaving my dirty food that I've, my dirty plates and stuff, just leaving it there, without cleaning it right then. And so I don't know why, for me, that really just changed my outlook. So there we go. Yeah,
I think, sometimes people have this perspective, which is, and I've heard the saying, I forget where I heard it, which is, how you do anything is how you do everything. But I think to some extent that's a load of bullshit, right? Because, I prefer to think of it in terms of seasons, right? So there are times when I need to be about as full on as I can be. Right. Everything is super precise. Everything is super focused. It's go, 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 go. But I find, this could be me personally, if I did that all the time, 24/7, I would just burn and crash. So there are seasons when I need to just chill, right, and relax, and maybe not be so hard on myself. And I call it optimal performance, actually, when I do any mentoring with people. And it's the concept between, if you run out of the gates really fast and you don't understand the length of the race, you are gonna run out of steam at some point. Whereas if you know what the race is and you prepare for it, and then you prepare yourself for it, then you are going to have the sustainability to be able to get to the outcome. And a lot of people don't think of it necessarily in that way.
Yeah, no, I really love that, what you said about the length of the race, because that's definitely been a downfall for me in the past. That is for sure. But one thing that I think I see, especially from talking to a lot of people on Clubhouse, is that what makes them successful is really that they have this laser sharp focus on sort of one thing, you know, one core thing. And the reason I bring that up is because I know when in the past, when a few years ago, I'd be listening to podcasts like this, and you can get so many ideas. You can, and look, I've really made a big mistake of this in the past. I would be getting into e-commerce and then drop shipping and then online coaching and ebooks and selling so many different things. And you never really see any type of result in any one area. And I think through being strict on yourself and saying no to all the opportunities and doubling down on the thing that you're already seeing some success in, that is what I feel has allowed me to scale as quickly as I have so far, and what I'm continually trying to do, right? Because I never thought that by the age I'm at now, I would have been able to achieve what I wanted to. I mean, I set my goal to be a millionaire by 26. And so you can achieve so much more in such a short period of time when you do have that focus. Because I think it can just be the most dangerous thing, losing that focus, like you said earlier.
Well, and it comes from a fear of missing out mentality, that if I don't do everything, then, you know, I'm not going to get to where I want to get to. But it's the opposite. I often say, to make your first million, you need to do it through one thing, right? One focus thing. Now, there can be some tangents to that one thing, but you're not going to be spread betting, you know, multiple streams of income. Most of the people I know who are, you know, very, very high net worth have done it in that way. Made their first bit of money in one area. It could be real estate, it could be business buying like I do. And then they diversify into other things once they've got, you know, I suppose in many cases, not just the capital, but they've also got the headspace, because it takes a lot of work to get to the first milestone, you know, and you've got a lot of sacrifices, but once you get there, the choices open up.
That's interesting. So what do you feel then is, and I love this topic, what do you feel is the thing then beyond that first stage, right? When people get to like their first million, from there to like, let's say 10 million and then 10 million and beyond, do you see there are different types of mindsets required for that? Yeah.
I talk about it in terms of identity. So, and it's the same in business, the different stages of businesses. But if we talk about it from a personal wealth perspective, the capacity to do more and be more changes through those different milestones. So becoming a millionaire, if you like, in this day and age is not necessarily, I'm not going to say it's difficult, because I know a lot of people are not there, but it's more to do with the fact of the choices it gives you. Like, you know, that might get you a nice house, you know, a nice car. You might have a second home somewhere. You might have your kids in private school. You might have some decent investments. It doesn't invariably mean that you don't have to work again necessarily, right? You know, maybe years ago it did. When you're getting up into the tens of millions, then the choices are different again, right? When you're starting to go above that, and I often advise people who are going to become, as we say, I call it deca millionaires. So they're going to be, their net worth is going to be in the 8 figures, right? So they're the ones who I'm normally working with, because their businesses are going to sell for that level and they've got decent shareholdings, right? Now, I often say to people, what's your number? What's your number? Right. And actually, I'm going to ask you this, and you can see if you want to be brave enough to say it, right? Because I'm normally pretty accurate, right? So if I said to you, if you wanted to sell your business one day, or you wanted to have enough money to you know, it doesn't mean you wouldn't do what you're doing. What's that number look like for you?
Oh man, this is such a good question, and something that I have been meaning to think about as I begin to build a SaaS company for online course creation. But for me, honestly, right now, I have not put enough thought behind that, because I live a very, very, I wouldn't say simple life, because I do like to travel and such, but I really don't spend that much money, right? I really don't. I mean, my monthly expenses are very low. And again, is it that I need to sort of normalize a new level? I don't know. I mean, I've never really been one of these people who's into extremely flashy things. I like nice watches and I like living somewhere nice. But to be honest, I've just been so focused for so long, because that's what gives me fulfillment. So what is my number? Wow. I don't know, because I I would love, do I want to be a billionaire? I mean, I don't know. I want to definitely make hundreds of millions. I want to make hundreds of millions because
why do you want to do it? I mean, so if, and it's interesting, I'll kind of give you a kind of, I will kind of help with this in a second, but I want to play with it a bit.
Yeah.
Why do you want to make hundreds of millions?
So my brother, as I mentioned earlier, he's epileptic, right? And so for me, there's a big driving force behind making a meaningful difference. And I was talking to someone about this earlier, actually, whether I want to make an impact in the world of epilepsy or supporting families with disabled kids. And so I'm in the process now of trying to figure out where am I going to be able to make the most meaningful impact. But at the same time, you know, I also want to know with certainty that I can take care of my whole family, right? So there are two sides to it. There's taking care of my family first, then making a meaningful impact in some type of something to do with disability. So that is why I want to make a lot of money, because I can't do that with no money. Right? It's not possible. And of course, I want to have a few nice houses around the world as well.
Well, what you're talking about is income and impact, right? And this is the reason I was playing around with, you know, what's your number, is there's a very big difference between income and wealth. So most of the time, so I'll get lots of people who come to me, particularly early stage businesses, and I tend to advise more later stage, but I still get the sort of the SaaS businesses coming in. And, you know, I always laugh when one of the founders come along and say, oh, I've got a unicorn here, right? A unicorn being a business that, you know, sells for over $1 billion. And I always say, why does that matter? Why does it matter? And quite often they can't answer the question. And where I go with this is the figure that most people say they, in terms of money, right, is usually somewhere between 10 and 20 million pounds, right? So, you know, because if you think about it, if you have that sort of money, let's say you have 20 million pounds, $20 million, maybe a bit more than that, you know, you can probably do everything that you need to do in your life in terms of everything you just said, actually, from yourself. So family, you, houses. If you invest that money well, you're going to have more income than you need. Right? It's not a big number in the scheme of things when you see some of the numbers that are out there with the Bezoses and the Musks and all that. But to make an impact on the world, that's where you need your hundreds of millions. You know, not always, you know, some people can start foundations and they can do things, you know, but if you really want to make a massive difference, it takes much more capital and much more wealth. And that's more altruistic than it is about you personally. And so it's an interesting question. It's not an easy answer, but that's why I wanted to just see where you're at. And you actually answered it by what I thought you'd say, which is it's a combination, but there's a big impact streak in you as well.
I think for me, that's the more important thing, because to be honest, my life has not changed really since I started generating a good amount of revenue. Now, I live, you know, I like to live in like a hotel apartment, right? Because it means that I don't have to think about doing any cleaning, as I kind of alluded to earlier. I don't like doing that. But, you know, I like to be in a nice location so I can be around nice things. But really, other than that, I mean, nothing really much has changed. But I think for me, it's a case of I really find fulfillment in what I'm doing. I really find fulfillment in, like just now, just before we got on this call, I was on a call with my COO and we were strategizing, right, about how we're going to be able to get 5 steps ahead of the implementation of what she's working on right now to make sure everything that we need to do is done. And so we were discussing all of that. And for me, it's like this puzzle. I once had a mentor who said something to me because I said that he was asking, why do you do this? He was kind of challenging me, like, you just did that, Nick. He's like, why do you do this? Why do you do this? And he kept asking me. And I was like, I don't know. It's just a game. Like, it is literally a game to me. And then he said, no, Lauren, it is not a game. It's a puzzle because everyone gets to win. And I was like, wow, that's so
nice. That's a good insight.
And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And then ever since then, everything to do with team building, to do with launching new programs, I see it like this puzzle trying to put everything in the right place. And for me, it's just enjoyable. I mean, I'm into fitness and health, but other than that, my hobby really is business. I just love it. But can you relate to that, or am I just?
Yeah, but if you love what you do, and it's an old cliche about, you know, you don't work a day in your life, and that's true. I think, you know, I had years of part of my story is you know, a number of years in the world of corporate big media companies. before I started working in private equity. And I didn't enjoy it, right? But I was there for a long time for lots of reasons, right? But once you find what you really love, which, now I help people build empires from businesses, right? Buying businesses, selling, that I get super excited because I see the best part of an entrepreneur's journey, right? From the perspective where everything that they've worked for years and years and years and sacrificed comes to fruition for them. Right. And it doesn't happen for everyone. So the fact that you can take a business to that level is amazingly powerful. So I get a lot out of that. And I build strong friendships along the way because it's such an emotional journey, that last stage. It's like, probably the best way to describe it is, and I haven't climbed Everest, but I've done a bit of that sort of stuff, right? The last part of the climb is the hardest part. Yeah. But once you get there, it's the most satisfying as well. So, but yeah, I totally get it. Before we move on to one last thing, we've had Richard been commenting a lot here. Just want to say thanks for your comments, Richard. Lots of stuff around cold showers, 5 minutes. If anyone's got any questions who is listening live for Lauren and you're not on Clubhouse because you're probably addicted to that, post them away and we'll try and answer those. Cool. All right. So last thing I wanted to kind of just touch on today, Lauren, if that's cool, is you have a pretty prolific social media following yourself, 130 odd thousand followers on Instagram.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I do a bit on YouTube as well. I think we're around 40,000 on there too. And interestingly enough, LinkedIn.
Okay, yeah, I was having a look at your LinkedIn profile before. That's where I think we initially connected. Yeah, you see, you've got about 15,000 on there. I can see. But but again, we've kind of gone quite deep with some of your motivations, but now we're kind of going into something a little bit different. But that's cool. What's the secret behind that success? Has that been intentional? Have you said, I want to build a big social media presence, a personal brand? Or has it been really about you just sharing a lot of your thoughts and your stuff? And, that's got some groundswell from just being consistent.
So how I started on this interesting entrepreneurial endeavor was I lost weight in an extremely unhealthy way when I was about 15, because I used to get bullied in school. People would call me Mackie D's because I was slightly larger than the other girls in my year. And so having lost all that weight, I started having panic attacks every day, right? Every day my mum would have to come and pick me up from school. And it was incredibly crippling for me. And I always knew that I wanted to do something in the world of helping with epilepsy, something along those lines. And I knew that if I'm having all these panic attacks, I'm never going to be able to have any success, right? And so I then realized, okay, I need to gain weight in a healthy way. And so I kind of found some stuff on Instagram back when Instagram was brand new. And I was really keen to just communicate with these other women who were into lifting weights and fueling their bodies. But I didn't want to comment because back then you used to be able to see what everyone else could comment on, what everyone else was commenting on each other's posts. And so this just goes to show how insecure and how aware, if I'm ever going to have a daughter, I'm just going to be so fearful, like all the things that she's going to be worried about. I was worried that my friends would see me commenting on these other people's posts. So I made a separate Instagram, which back then was called Fitness Life Lauren, and started basically documenting my journey and just to connect with these other women. And so that was kind of how I started on Instagram. And I had a private account, but then people started asking me for coaching when I was 16 years old. And then it was a bit weird because a lot of these people were in their 40s. And so I was a lot younger than them, but they wanted me to help them because they saw my transformation. And so that was how I started. Now, purely sharing value and sharing what was working for me, that's what grew my following in the fitness industry. Then when I pivoted to what I do now, helping other people build online coaching businesses, course businesses, I kind of changed my content, but it's always been about finding what works for me, what strategies work, and then sharing that and not really holding anything back. And as you said earlier, Nick, on your podcast, people can get all the information that they need. But the reason why people will join a mentorship program or a coaching program or a course is because everything is packaged up A to B. It's all neat and tidy. They get the accountability and they get that support, because a large part of getting to a next level in anything, whether it's your fitness journey, whether it's personal finance, whether it's buying a business, whether it's launching an online course, is you want that reassurance and you want someone to just tell you, hey, Nick, yeah, what you're doing is perfect, right? And so that's why I always say to people who are trying to grow on social media, don't hold anything back, share value. Because a lot of what you'll see is people just making some graphic in Canva and then posting that graphic like, hey, book a strategy session with me.
Yeah, I can't stand that. I mean, there's a piece there where it's better if it's just building, your life really. Because I was out with my daughter on Saturday and we're having a great walk, and so we just wanted to take a photo around that. And then I sort of filmed her, and I'm not very good on Instagram. I'm still trying to work out what the buttons are doing, right? But then I took a video of that, and it got heaps of people kind of commenting on it and just coming back, and it's lovely. I think that's quite nice. On LinkedIn, funnily enough, I had something like 30,000 people like one of my posts last year, and it happened to be the wedding anniversary of me and my wife, and I just didn't think twice about it really. I just put it on LinkedIn, and of course, some people are like, oh, you can't post that on LinkedIn. I'm like, well, why not? And the whole message was really about just thanking her for the support, right? So it did have a context that while I'm off there building empires, it's not just me, right? There's other people who support that. But yeah, it's nice.
Well, I was just going to say there has to be a balance as well, right? Because if you're only posting your family, then people don't really have a reason to follow you. So I think when it comes down to everything that you're sharing on social media, for anyone who's, trying to build a personal brand, it really is thinking, what are the problems that my ideal client is facing, right? What are they thinking through? What would they see on their profile, on your profile as they're scrolling their feeds? And it's trying to trigger an aha moment in their mind. So getting them to put their phone down and like, yeah, that makes sense. Or, oh, wow, I'd never thought about that before. Because when you can trigger that aha moment in their mind, then they're always going to essentially relate anything around that topic to you. It's sort of like they have this dopamine release, like, wow, yeah, and they get this sort of rush of adrenaline. And then it's one of the most powerful ways to build that connection. So social media is all about consistency. You'll hear people talk about it all the time. But one of the things is just positioning yourself as an expert in whatever field it is that you are in. And then from there, I think if we're just quickly talking about client acquisitions on social media, then a lot of people expect clients just to naturally fall into their inbox, right? Or just to come to them. One of the best things that you can do is outbound marketing. So being proactive with it, actually reaching out to people. If someone comments on your post, send them a message and start the conversation. And then when you are inside of Messenger, then you can have an amazing conversation back and forth with them to qualify them to see if they are a good fit for working with you. And then from there, that's when you can get on a sales call or send them over to your team. And then that's when you can sort of initiate the sales process, right? But to be honest, the sales process begins in the actual post that you're making. But look, that's me getting into
no,
social
you're getting
media.
into that. And also we could then go into the technical detail of how you scale that and teams and VAs and that sort of thing, which becomes
okay. But one thing real quick, Nick, right. Just because you mentioned VAs, I will say, don't have VAs doing this. Please have an actual sales team with real salespeople who are motivated and hungry to generate revenue. Because if you have VAs doing it, oh my gosh, it's going to be so mechanical. You're going to need some really specific SOP, which just never flows in conversation, right? VAs are amazing at executing on tasks, which are so step by step, but human-to-human interaction, there's nothing worse than having a VA on there, because people will just see, again, I'm saying this because I've made this mistake, and it's one of those things that can damage your reputation, and you don't want that.
No, absolutely. It's a really good point, because I've seen that, and it's same with automation tools that you see on various platforms, where you just know that the whole thing's on some sort of timer, and then the name's wrong.
They're always doing it right, that's for sure. But I totally agree. I mean, it's going to be crazy when AI is smart enough to actually reply like a human. It's going to be dangerous, but also bizarre. I mean, gosh.
Well, by then we'll have islands somewhere, and that's all right. No, all good. Well, listen, Lauren, I'm conscious, you've got other stuff to do other than be on Clubhouse the rest of the day. I've got like 7 meetings plus Clubhouse coming up. I've got one more podcast to do today as well. So lots of stuff. But listen, it's been cool. I can't believe it's probably been, I reckon, 24 hours since we met. It's like almost so a day. And here we are. We've taken action. We've been talking about business stuff. We've had you on the podcast. It's all good.
Yeah,
so where can people are interested in, obviously, building courses, online programs and things like that, certainly information-based stuff, or if they just want to connect with you, what's the best way to do that, Lauren?
Yeah, so I have a podcast called Impact School. So if you just go into the podcast provider, just type in Impact School. And we actually got hacked recently, which was crazy. 13th of September, 2020. It was traumatizing to say the least, but we are back and we are coming in with all of the content that you need for anything to do with scaling online service-based businesses. And any social media platform of your choice, go on just Lauren Tickner, that's my name. And you'll probably find me on Clubhouse. I can't lie.
Well, yeah, you'll find probably both of us on Clubhouse. So if anyone's listening to this and they're on Clubhouse, look us up. What's your handle there? Is it at Lauren Tickner?
Just always Lauren Tickner. I keep it simple for everyone.
For that. I mean, I was lucky enough to get at Nick Bradley on Clubhouse, but normally it's at Nick Bradley 980 million. It's a common name, That's all right. Well, listen, Lauren, awesome. I'll let you get on with your day. Thanks for coming on Scale Up Your Business. As I said, the live stream, and also this will be a podcast coming up soon. It's been great just understanding more about you as an entrepreneur, learning more about your journey. And yeah, just some really interesting stuff there that I wouldn't have seen actually by just, even seeing you on social media. So some of the depth of what you do and why you do came out really brilliantly today. So I certainly value your time and I've enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. And just really quick, one final thing about Clubhouse, I promise. That is actually one of the things that I love about it, right? Because you can so easily go onto someone's LinkedIn or their Instagram and you don't understand much about them as a human. Whereas when you're talking, there is no better way to understand someone. Right. You actually you identify very quickly who knows what they're talking about and who's been hiding behind nicely formatted Instagram captions that may have been written by someone else.
No, that's true. That's true. Yeah, exactly. You can't hide behind fancy marketing when you're in a room like that. It's very exposed. But that's the beauty. So cool. All right. Awesome. Thank you very much, Lauren. And yeah, we'll see you again soon in Clubhouse.